It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Good morning. Welcome in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. High drama cross in Germany coming at the top of the hour, Alex.
That's right. I'm very excited as well. We'll get to some soccer, some baseball, and today we are going to talk about the Detroit Lions.
See, I knew that would catch you off guard.
Well, you also caught me off guard because you didn't introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Jeff Parles.
This is Jeff Parles, everyone.
Did I not say my own name?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I don't know. She's Alex White, by the way, also. So we get everyone's name out there. Sean and Caden are there. Ryan's here already prepping for punchlines. So there we go. Everyone's named. I can't believe I did that. I didn't even realize I did that. What a start. You can swoosh it across the screen with some audio here, Sean. There we go. Look at that. Starting five. Wow. Amazing start, more so than anything. Number one, going to the Subway Series. The Mets took game one off the Yankees. How about Garrett Cole yesterday? No strikeouts, 4 home runs allowed, 5 swing and misses. Those are all career worst for Garrett Cole, any way you slice it. Dating back to his first and second years on all those numbers, basically, when they matched for career worse. Yankees made it interesting, judge at a grand slam, but the Mets win 9-7. Game two, Luis Gil. Yankees have both their best pitchers going in this series. Gil will go against Manaea. The market has bet the Mets in this game from as high as minus 150 down to minus 121 on the Yankees. Mets, of course, red hot. 14-4 in their last 18 games, Alex.
Luis Gil has been struggling as of late. We will break this one down later, though, and where we are going. Number two, Baltimore trying to avoid the sweep at home against the red-hot Guardians as well. Grayson Rodriguez and the Orioles, big favorites at home with Cookie Carrasco starting for Cleveland. 5 of the last 7 Baltimore games have gone over that total.
This series has been a high-scoring affair. More home runs than you would expect out of that ballpark yesterday, but the Orioles lost 5 in a row. Not playing well, even not taking advantage of the Yankees struggling just a little bit over the last few weeks. Euro going on right now. All right, Group E, we have a very rare scenario where all 4 teams are currently tied. Right now, if it all ended right now, 4 points apiece, Ukraine would be the ones on the outside looking in. They would be eliminated. The pre-tournament group favorite Belgium with a loss today could very easily be eliminated. Romania and Slovakia, the other matchup right now. Alex, we normally do never see draw prices like this on the 3-way line, but Slovakia and Romania, and of course my screen decides to not tell me what it ended up closing at. There it is. Ended up closing at, last night I saw as minus 115. Was the price last night, which is just an asinine price on a draw. Closes plus 110 on the draw because a draw would get both teams through, but that is still a crazy price. The other games later, Turkey and Czechia, which is the old Czech Republic, they're a coin flip behind us. If there is a winner in that game, they will advance out of Group F into the knockout stage.
Number 4, doubleheader for the Braves and the St. Louis Cardinals. The first game yesterday was postponed, but highlighting that one again today, Ronaldo Lopez for Atlanta versus Kyle Gibson for the Cardinals. Braves minus 123 here at the South Point. Total in that one is 8.
Then a little more soccer. Number 5, Copa America. Mexico looks to take complete command of Group B in the Copa America. They take on Venezuela, who actually won their first match against Ecuador. If Mexico takes care of business as a plus 110 favorite, half goal line or 3-way line, all the same there. They'll more than likely clinch Group B, barring some real craziness there on number 5. And that's their starting 5 here for this morning here on Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. All right, Alex, let's go into today in baseball. By the way, as always, our friend Danny Burke will join us. 9:25, Danny will be on here today. Getting you ready for his baseball picks. Also, we'll get his NFC North selections, thoughts. We did preview the Detroit Lions in our NFL season preview later in the show as well. A team that was legitimately one step away from the Super Bowl a year ago. We'll tell you what they did in the offseason and what our thoughts are on Motown going into 2024. This is a little bit of a complex day here in baseball because there are, at least as of a few hours ago, and we've started getting more guys named over the last few hours. Doubleheader, of course, Atlanta and the Cardinals. Still, we know what the order was. We didn't know that order about 2 hours ago. But Alex, I just want to start off real quick with a game that is just about to start in Tampa with the Rays and the Mariners. Pepio is going to close a favorite against George Kirby. I don't think that's right. I know the Rays. Have taken the first 2 games of this series. You had a bullpen meltdown 2 days ago from Seattle. Yesterday, Tampa's offense, which has been mostly dormant this year, put 11 on them. But I don't think Kirby should be closing a dog here. So if Tampa puts up a scoreless top of the first, I'd probably hop in game here on Seattle on a better plus price than what was available before this game starts in legitimately 90 seconds.
I'm with you. I do like the Mariners here in this one. If you want to avoid the bullpens as well, maybe look at the first 5 for them here. But Pepe has really struggled against lefties, and the Mariners have a lot of lefties in their lineup. George Kirby is dominated against bad lineups, and that is what we have seen from Tampa Bay for majority of the year. So I do like Kirby in this matchup as well.
Good old 12:10 Eastern start time. We always love that. There'll be next week we will be on 4th of July because 15 baseball games, including one that will have already been on for an hour because they always play at 11 a.m. local time in D.C. on the 4th of July. All right, just Alex, I'll give you the floor here. We have a lot of games today. A lot of them are going early. We have the extra game, so we have 16 total today because of the double dipper in St. Louis today because of that rain out. Where would you like to start off here going into this slate here on a Wednesday?
Well, since I did highlight it, let's go ahead and start with the Baltimore Orioles.
All right.
Trying to avoid that sweep against Cleveland. So, as I mentioned, Carlos Carrasco for the Guardians, Grayson Rodriguez. So, I do like Baltimore in this one as well, avoiding the sweep. It is an expensive price, though. So, Guardians have a big matchup coming up next. They have taken 2 of the first 3 games, 3-2, game 1, 10-8 in the last game. Orioles against righties, really good, except for their last 2 starts. But we had 2 really good pitchers there with Beebe and Blanco. I said that name wrong, but so I think that they will bounce back here and can take this one. Carrasco, 5.4 ERA, so not great there either. And Cleveland's already used most of their bullpen in the first 2 games.
This has been a bizarro series where, again, by the way, quietly, Alex White, the Cleveland Guardians have the best record in Major League Baseball all of a sudden.
That is the one concern.
Percentage points ahead of Philadelphia, a game in front of the Yankees, who have, again, a lot of panic there in Yankee land at the moment. Orioles, as we mentioned, have lost 5 in a row after taking 2 out of 3 in the Bronx. 1-run game on Monday, 18 runs yesterday, where the ball just couldn't stop from getting out of Camden Yards. Carrasco is pretty clearly the worst pitcher in the Guardians staff. I'm still a little surprised that he is there. Again, there's a lot of sentimental value for Carrasco, of course, traded in the Lindor trade, now back as a Guardian. That price scares me on Baltimore now, though. That's where I'm at, where the Orioles are just not playing well. This is, on paper, a massive pitching mismatch. But $1.85 is steep now, Alex. That would be my only concern more so than anything is that laying this steep of a price where you said minus 165, that was good. 20 cents more? It's probably one of those, see if you can get a better price in game on Baltimore if you're going to look at the Orioles at the current price.
Well, and the tough thing is, I mean, do you really want to bet against Cleveland with the run line here? So as much as I like Baltimore and that minus 105 looks pretty nice, yeah. I mean, they have been very competitive and one of the best teams in the MLB. So that scares me a little bit as well.
A total of 9. I think that's fair. I think that's right. Carrasco struggled. Ball was flying yesterday in Baltimore. Again, you're going to start seeing this. There are a bunch of higher totals than you would expect because it's June. It's a hot June at that as well. You're going to start seeing the ball really flying all over the joint across Major League Baseball in these outdoor games. I want to bring up the Phillies and the Tigers here real quick. I know it's not the most intriguing games because this pitching matchup is blah. Spencer Turnbull returns to Detroit. How about that reunion? Minus 156 on Turnbull against Holden, the left-hander for Detroit. Total 9. Tigers beat the Phillies yesterday to get 4 in the 5th to beat Ranger Suarez. Scooble got the better of them yesterday. And total, again, here's all I'll say with this. That total feels high, but you're dealing with, again, not much of a sample size on Holden. And Turnbull, even though he's pitched well this year, those underlying analytics are scary for a blow-up at some point for Turnbull. So, but I see 9. That's basically the most pitcher-friendly ballpark in baseball at this rate in Detroit. I know the weather's supposed to be warm, so may get a little extra juice on the ball because of that, but 9 feels heavy to me, Alex.
This was really tough. I thought it was Jake Flattery going yesterday for Detroit, and we do not have him pitching today. So I just thought this was a stay away, not knowing who was going there. Especially Turnbull, we don't have much for him either. Just 51 innings pitched this year. Pretty good strikeout to walk ratio, 56-18. But I think there's better games to bet on the board.
Yeah, again, was supposed to be Flaherty. He was a huge strikeout rate so far this year, but not going here now this morning. All right, Alex. Oh, boy. I'm going to bring up Colorado and Houston real quick. I
have a play in this one.
I know it's an ugly game. You have a play. I kind of actually gravitate towards it as well. The Astros don't look now, but with a win today, the Astros are back at 500. I would look for a dance partner on the Stros here. Find somewhere. And again, don't love Arrighetti as their pitcher. Don't like Feldner either. I don't like either pitcher in this game. So I guess I like the over 2.
That's where I'm at.
Even though it's juiced to the under here. But I would look for a dance partner with the Astros if you want a money line parlay. The Astros with someone here today. It just kind of feels like, hey, they found it. Seattle should be very careful right now because, again, we saw this last year with the Astros. Got off to a brutal start. Ended up winning the division even though they were not really the best team in the American League West for any portion, more so than maybe about a 6-week period last year.
I do really like the over here in this one. Arrighetti has struggled. Both of these pitchers actually over a 6 ERA for them, and the Astros' best lineup at home so far this year. So I think they will be able to get to Feltner as well. So over 5.5 for over 8.5 for me in this one between the Rockies and the Astros.
The Rockies right now. Again, entering today here on June 26th, the Colorado Rockies officially own the worst record in the NL. The Marlins have finally caught them. So, again, we expected nothing out of this Colorado team. I thought they were going to be the worst team in baseball going into the year. Again, the White Sox have been a special type of bad, even though they played a little bit better recently. They've gotten it from absolutely pathetic to pathetic.
News already that either or both of those pitchers may be going, though. That has kept them.
Well, I would be
with
shocked.
A few wins.
Crochet's an interesting case with the White Sox. Fetty's going to get traded. I don't even think there's a debate on that. There's no rationale for the White Sox keeping him around. Crochet, you got to wait for someone to give you the right king's ransom for that. If you got to make sure if you're trading team-controlled guy like that, you better get the right deal for him if you're gonna trade Crochet. Fetty, yeah, short-term contract, pitching probably better than expected. Yeah, you trade him for more than what the market value would have been before the season, absolutely. But Crochet right now Crochet's on the 21-60 team and is the third favorite in the Cy Young race right now.
Yep,
that's how well the dude has been pitching.
Very impressive. Yes,
very impressive all the way around. Alex, where else do we want to look today in Major League Baseball? Do we want to look at Eric Fetty today since he is going against the Dodgers today? Gavin Stone goes for LA minus 170 on the Dodgers on the south side with a total of 8.5.
So this is a total that I would like to bet under. I'm a little concerned here with the Dodgers and once Fetty comes out of that lineup. So need to look at the first 5 under between these two. But you're right. I mean, Fetty has been phenomenal. 3.05 ERA, 86 strikeouts to his 24 walks. And Gavin Stone, very good as well, 3.04 ERA. In their last 3 starts, opponents' batting average for Stone, 232, and Fetty, 237. So I think first 5 is probably the best way to go looking at that under. It's probably, 4.5? I'll have to look that up.
First 5 for the LA Dodgers and the Chicago White Sox. All depends on the book. There's some 4 juice to the over. Behind us, it's 4.5, minus 125. So you got to eat some juice, but definitely worth getting that extra half run.
I agree.
If you're going to go that route. Subway Series, real quick. Market is all over the Mets in this game. From minus 150 at the peak behind us on Luis Gil and the New York Yankees, all the way down to minus 121, plus 111. A lot of ones there if you're betting the Mets behind us on the dime line penny mover there. Total's 8.5 juiced under. They just don't want to move to 9 because I even say it was even 8.5 minus 35 at one point on that total. Look, the Mets are playing some great baseball. We've talked about it. They're 14-4 over the last 18. They've won every series. Have not lost the series since Grimace showed up. Yes, I know. Doesn't mean anything for the field, but hey, it's a fun story. I don't know what to do with this game. And this kind of feels like the market kind of sucked the value out here, where if you got on the Mets early at those bigger bloated prices, yeah, that sounds pretty good. But I would not touch these right now at the other numbers.
I agree. I think this number is settled in pretty nicely. Lean to the Yankees here, even though Luis Gil has been hit in his last few starts, but started off the season, tremendous. So maybe bounce back spot for him against the rivals here. Lean a little bit to the under as well. The Yankees bats have kind of cooled off a little bit, but as you mentioned, now the Mets are starting to heat up. So that makes that total a little bit hard to handicap as well.
Real quick here, Alex. Of course, you can get active in our chat right now, South Point Studio. B. Marte with a super chat. And you know what? I don't think B. Marte is the only person who has this question right now. Do you enjoy this time of the year in sports wagering when basketball and hockey are done, waiting for football? And, there are a lot of people who are like that. And I'll take a little bit of a different angle with this, more so than do we enjoy it. I think people that are in this right now, I enjoy betting on the soccer. Alex enjoys betting on the WNBA. There are sports that we enjoy betting on in this offseason. Now, we don't always get soccer like these major international tournaments every summer, but we got them this summer, just the way that the cookie crumbles in these even years. But I think a lot of things, and this is where a lot of people get themselves into a lot, for lack of a better word, trouble, Alex, where, and I'm guilty of this as well, you have in mind what you want your football bankroll to be. But you start betting on some baseball where you may not be comfortable. You start betting on Wimbledon's coming up soon. Maybe you're not a tennis bettor. Maybe you hop in on that because, that's what's going on right now. Maybe you really have a fun time and bet the NBA Summer League in a few weeks from now. I will not this year. I can tell you that right now, Alex.
This year,
I didn't last year either. So we're going for a 2 straight run. But I think more so than anything, I think we still of course enjoy going through the process. But if you look at least my betting card for, just throwing out there, July 21st, as opposed to September 21st, you're going to be able to tell the difference right away. And I think that's the one thing where, hey, there's not as much stuff in the forefront to normal bettors, especially if you're not a baseball fan. WNBA has been bet a little bit more, but I think you agree with me on this. I think that market has gotten sharper this year because of the attention that the league has garnered. So just one of those is, hey, if you're not a huge fan of the sports that are going on right now, don't force your action. Wait. If you want to be able to bet football to the most of your bankroll ability, save your bankroll for football. But keep listening to us, because every once in a while, Alex will find one that is good, that you can, hey, all right, you know what? Alex knows what she's talking about. We're going to follow Alex that day.
Well, let's hope that over hits in the Rockies-Astros game today. But no, you're right. I definitely say don't force it, especially when you're, like you said, there are times where you can find good dance partners and put some favorites together, but don't try and do that every day because we know that baseball, like every professional sport, is tough because these are professional athletes and any underdog can win any day. But also it is fun where the market is right now if you embrace it, if you do your homework. I mean, there's strikeout props you can jump in on, run props you can jump in on if you don't want to go with the long shot with the home runs, but plenty of different things you can do to get involved.
Well, and again, it's just find your market. And also again, like it's a valid point for a lot of people out there. A lot of people just want to bet football. I get it. You and I get it. Danny gets it as well when we get Danny in a few minutes. But there's a reason we're talking NFL in June, where, yeah, it's early in the calendar. It's a lot of people like, hey, we want to get ready for our football bets. We want to see what Alex and I guess me, I don't know why I'd want to know what I have to say, but you at least want to get ready for football. I get it. There are a lot of people who are like that, especially if they're big hockey bettors or if they're big NBA bettors. Again, if you've listened to this show, you know Alex and I are not big NBA bettors. It's just the way that we bet. Alex bets more WNBA. I bet obviously a lot more college hoops than NBA. But look, it's an interesting question. It's an interesting question. We still enjoy the grind, but our action, the amount of action, definitely does go down in these months as opposed to later in the year. And look, there are some people that are not like that. There are some people who are, hey, we're going to come in and we're going to just bet these markets because these are the markets we are best at, which is baseball, WNBA, whatever else is going on in the summer, Alex. It's just whatever cookie crumbles for your better, however it is.
Yeah, you're right. And especially, I mean, without having college even right now. And for a little bit with college baseball going on, you could find some plays there as well. But it does make it a little bit tough. And as Jeff mentioned, don't force it and keep that bankroll for football for sure.
Shout out to B. Marte for the super chat. Again, if you are watching us right now, again on the stream, thank you for watching us, as always. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you hadn't. Also hit that like button on today's episode as well if you're watching us here on YouTube. All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, Danny Burke joins us. Baseball, we have to ask him about the Bears since I talked the Bears up as a legitimate playoff contender yesterday. And maybe Danny have more thoughts on the NFC North when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio, the perfect blend of sports.
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
Comedy.
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
Yes. I am beautiful. And a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Join Ryan McCormick.
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
And host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock, I go, ah! Ah!
Oh! Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's alongside. Sean, Caden here as well. And now joining us, don't worry, you'll get your time, McCormick. Come on now. Our guy, Danny Burke, Burke'sBeat.com. Burke's Beat is the podcast as well. DB, good morning, my man. How are you?
I'm doing good, guys. Appreciate you having me on as always. How's everything hanging back in Sin City?
We're alive. I mean, the weather is attempting to melt us, but we're doing.
It is getting pretty hot. Danny.
It's really, really hot recently out here in Vegas. But hey, it's hot across the country right now. I know that. I know you guys had some pretty ridiculous weather over the weekend as well, but that wasn't just the purple effect of Grimace. So that's a different discussion for a different time, Danny. I just want to start real quick. Before we get into your individual picks of the day, we do it feels like we do it every single week, but I have to at least bring it up again. The NL Wildcard race, real quick, which is starting. It's starting. I don't want to say it's figuring itself out because that's still not right, but you're starting to see a little bit of a gap here where you're starting to see your Cubs fall out of it a little bit, where they lose 2 out of 3 to the Mets and now lost the first 2 in San Francisco, despite Kyle Hendricks turning the clock back yesterday. You have the Giants themselves who are 3 out. The Reds have fallen back a little bit to 3.5 out. Again, I don't want to say there's any clarity here, but it is starting to feel like, all right, maybe a few of these teams are going to drop back to being a clear range of 10 to 12, 10 to 13 in the league. And this may end up being more like a 5-horse race as opposed to a 9-horse race, as we were talking about over the last few weeks.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, look, every week we talk about the Cubs, it gets worse and worse seemingly here on the north side of Chicago. This team's an absolute joke, right? And they're clearly not willing to do anything to help improve it. And it's gotten to the point where us Cubs fans, you're not even really upset when they lose these games. It's more of an expectation and a when, not an if, a when it's going to occur. And you just got to laugh it off because it's really so disrespectful from the front office and the ownership, just a slap in the face to one of the most loyal fan bases across all major sports. And you have all this money, yet you're not willing to invest despite always having these sellouts, always having these profits. It's a complete joke. So there really is no hope for this Cubs team. They are not a playoff team. Do not bank on them getting into this wild card race. But with the remaining contenders, Jeff, again, I'm still holding strong on my anti-St. Louis stance. Even though they're a half game up above the Padres, I would not look to invest on St. Louis. I think the Padres are a viable play. I think the Diamondbacks are a viable play because they've been picking up their offense against right-handed pitching, which they struggled with for the beginning portion of the season. They were crushing lefties, but against righties, they were struggling over the last month. They have improved those numbers a ton in weighted runs created plus, ISO, OPS, all of those categories. Arizona has done a lot better. Now, Arizona, at the same time, they need to add pieces to their bullpen. That's what's been a big red flag for the Diamondbacks is their relief staff. So if they can make some acquisitions within the next month or two, that should put them over the top enough to get into a wild card spot. Your Mets, as much as I want to believe in that magic of Grimace, yes, the streak finally ended last week. I would resort more to your thoughts on them than putting any conviction myself. I think they're a good team, but I don't know if I would say they're good enough to find themselves in a wild card spot. I don't know if they have that pitching depth per se. That's what would cause me trepidation with the Metropolitans. The Pirates are going to be in the hunt for sure with their pitching staff, but their offense is horrid. The Nationals, a young and exciting team, but I think their pitching is going to regress as the season prolongs. The Giants would probably be the one team I would seek out some value on amongst all of those other teams I listed aside from the Padres and Diamondbacks. The Giants would be a team with some plus money that I think would be worth a stab. But when it's all said and done, I think talent-wise, it's going to be the Padres, the Diamondbacks, and then you'll still see the Braves up there. So that would be my top 3. And then the wild card would probably, well, not the actual wild card, but the wild card amongst the wild card teams would be the Giants for a little bit of a longer shot.
Danny, this game has already started, but I do want to get your thoughts. We talked about it a little bit here. The Mariners trying to avoid the sweep against Tampa Bay, but money coming in on the Rays, even though we do have George Kirby starting for Seattle. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I took Seattle here in hopes that they could avoid this 3-game sweep. George Kirby has been tremendous for Seattle. He does have a little concern in the sense that he's not the highest ground ball type of pitcher. His barrel rate is a little bit higher than you'd hope, but you look at some of his other metrics. His expected ERA is sub 340. His xFIP also sub 340, and he's striking out about 9 batters per 9 innings while walking less than one batter. Yes, one batter per 9 innings of pitching. And his whip is under 1, and he does keep his hard hit rate down to lower than 35%. Now, Ryan Pepio on the other side, his 4.61 ERA obviously isn't great. His expected ERA is solid, though, at 3.80. He's racking up the strikeouts, over 10 per 9 innings pitched, but he's walking more than 3 batters in that same time frame. And more importantly, he also is liable to more of a fly ball pitcher. 10% on his barrel rate, 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. And the Seattle offense obviously has been better than Tampa Bay. The Rays have picked it up as of late. Don't get me wrong. And that's what's gotten them to what? Now 500, and they've won like their last 6 out of 7, something like that. So they're finally catching their groove. But this just kind of felt like that finally losing spot for them with a solid, competent team with a great pitcher in Kirby opposing them to avoid that sweep. So that's why I like the cheap and price with Seattle. Obviously, if I'm not mistaken, it's scoreless heading into the bottom of the second. If you're still getting around that same price, I do think the Mariners should come out on top.
Again, no score and now on early goings. If you want a good price on Seattle, go do it now. You're getting a better price than you got pre-flop live there in Tampa. All right, looking at the other baseball games that you're on today, let's go to a game that Alex brought up earlier, and that's the Guardians and the Orioles. Carlos Carrasco, probably the worst starter in the Guardians rotation, goes for Cleveland. Grayson Rodriguez, we know, has pitched a lot better after a rough rookie go a year ago. Orioles are a nice size favorite. They're up to $1.85 now, Danny.
Yeah, I laid the run line here at plus 110. Again, another team looking to avoid a 3-game sweep, and the Orioles are in the midst of their longest losing streak of the season. I believe they've lost 5 consecutive games now. And aside from that, it's just, I think this pitching matchup very much favors the home team along with the offense. Cleveland's offense has been great. They've picked it up a lot as of late. Over the past month, they're second in OPS, ISO, and weighted runs created plus. The only team ahead of them is the aforementioned Baltimore Orioles. And if you look at the entirety of the whole season, Baltimore has been a top 3 team in a lot of those categories against right-handed pitching. Cleveland's more around that 11th range for those categories. But yeah, Carlos Carrasco, 14.5% on his home run to fly ball ratio. 5.40 on his ERA. His expected ERA still high at 4.92. His expected WOBA is at 3.47. So this is the time for a great offense in Baltimore that has relatively been struggling during this losing streak to just pummel the opposing pitcher. And Grayson Rodriguez, he's been sufficient. 3.82 ERA. His FIP's at 3.39. He's striking out over 10 batters, walking less than 3 per 9 innings pitched. He's kept his barrel rate down to 7%. And he's given up 7 earned runs in the 5 innings pitched the last game at Houston. But his xFIP came out to 201 for that game. So the result should have been a lot better. And I think we can see it be at least better to the sense of where it's going to limit the damage. Because the Guardians realistically probably going to put on a few runs here. But if he can limit that, and then you can bank on Baltimore producing enough runs against Carrasco, which they should be able to do so, then the Orioles should get back in the winning column and should be able to cover that run line.
Danny, let's look at a total that you are betting today. Now, the Diamondbacks found a way. They did get the win yesterday over the Twins, even though they tried to give it up there 1-5-4. What are you looking at today? We have Simon Woods Richards going for the Twins and Ryan Nelson for the D-backs.
Yeah, both of these pitchers not really inspiring much confidence in one or the other. I mean, Nelson with his 5.18 ERA, 4.85 expected ERA, his whip's over 150, his barrel rate over 10%. He's only given up 3 earned runs in his last 2 starts. One of those teams were the Chicago White Sox, so that certainly helps. But I think he's due for some big regression against one of the hotter teams in Minnesota. Over the past month, 125 weighted runs created plus against righties, 786 OPS, 185 ISO. And conversely, with Woods Richardson, yes, solid ERA of 3.26, but his underlying metrics indicate some potential regression. He's got a 4.27 on his xFIP. And then his earned run average, expected earned run average at 4.07. Barrel rate also over 10%, xWOBA over 319, and xISO 190. And I mentioned Arizona. Their bat's getting a lot better against right-handed pitching. The last 30 days, they're 118 with their weighted runs created plus, 767 OPS, and then a 164 ISO against righties. And I also mentioned that Arizona bullpen, pretty dicey. So these Minnesota bats ain't going anywhere, even if Nelson does come out of the game. So I like the total going over 9. I like that it's at the flat 9, thinking we're going to get a plethora of runs there at Chase Field.
That was yesterday. Total did get there to the over. Took a little bit, but it did get there in the end. That 5-4 game. Arizona, again, quietly back in the races. Again, this is the lovely portion of the National League wildcard race. It can be mediocre for half a season, and here you are, more than alive in the NL wildcard race, which is what Arizona has basically done through 79 games, 1 game under. Hey, we're only a game out. Even though I will say this, I know you mentioned it earlier, Danny. I got to give the Padres a little bit of due. By the way, yesterday, again, Mackenzie Gore priced wrong. And an underdog that shouldn't have been an underdog ends up winning second consecutive start. So that might be something we have to look for the next few times where the market's a little too high on Mackenzie Gore. But I do want to bring this up today, Danny, because that total is only 7.5 between the Padres and the Nationals today. And I know you didn't have a play on this, but hers is a guy who has really not shut anyone down. And I know Dylan Cease is, again, we consider him a top-flight pitcher. He has not been particularly great over the last few weeks. And that total feels like that should have probably came as an 8, and it's here as a 7.5 juiced under. I feel like that over might not be a bad idea as well.
Yeah, I don't mind that because you're right. Like Dylan Cease, you're kind of seeing a tad bit of volatility with him over the past month in his own right. And his ERA is over 4. His expected numbers are lower than that, sure. But, you look at his barrel rate, he's at 11%, which is very, very alarming. So as much as he can duel out there, as many batters as he can rack up with the strikeouts, he's still going to be liable to giving up the long ball and to getting big or to allowing big hits, doubles, triples, right? These slugging percentage aiding hits in home runs. So yeah, I think the Nationals with their offense that has also improved over the course of the past month and a half, especially after having lost the last 2 games, I wouldn't be shocked to see Washington put a little bit of damage on the right-hander. So I'm in agreement with you. Yeah, I didn't have a play here, but I certainly wouldn't want any part in the under between these 2 teams today.
Danny, I do want to ask you, too, before we brought you on, we were talking about betting during the summer a little bit slower and how you can also get involved with prop bets. Now, I'm pretty old school with the sides and the run line and the totals, but I know that you do a lot of prop bets, especially strikeout props. Nothing today, but can you walk us through how you go about finding your best value with your strikeout props?
Yeah, so this is a market that, again, I've flirted with in the past, but I think this season in particular, I've grown very fond of. And I think it's just because, I've been struggling a lot more with, say, a lot of bets that have revolved around like first 5 unders. The amount of bad beats I've had on that is just ridiculous. So I've tried to find other ways to seek an advantage, and the strikeouts have been fairly viable. So the way I go about it, Alex, is obviously you're looking at the specific matchup, this pitcher against this team. And I'm looking at his strikeout rate per those 9 innings pitched, but then also holding a strong emphasis on what the separation is between the walk rate per 9 innings and the strikeout rate. Because if a pitcher is walking, say, I guess 3 would be the threshold, but around like 3.5 per 9 innings pitched. And even if they're striking out a decent amount of guys, that still opens up the opportunities for putting unnecessary runners on base and potentially limiting those strikeouts if it's against an opponent that is just really isn't a complete liability with their K rate against righties, against lefties, whatever it may be. So I'm factoring all of that in, obviously factoring in what the number is and if it's a tad bit of an overreaction from the games before, because we've seen pitchers get like 6, 7 strikeouts in a row, and then their prop number is going to be listed at 6.5, where those past 3 teams they face, not good. They have a high strikeout rate, and now they're going up against a better team that not only keeps their strikeout rate limited, but probably going to put enough damage on this pitcher to where that pitcher isn't going to last long. So they're going to get taken out early, thus limiting the exposure you may have for their potential to getting over their strikeout prop. all of those things come into play. But the market at this point, I will say, on a kind of more minimal slate like today, at least I feel like, a lot of those numbers are getting to the 4.5 range. And when I'm betting these strikeout props, I tend to lean to wanting to bet the unders more than overs. And a lot of them have been at 4.5. So I've tried to be a lot more particular as of late, but all of those things are coming into my handicapping and the assessment of it. And when you find a right spot for it, it just feels like an absolute treasure because it's been a really good spot to attack. And also what I've done a couple times, some of these books are allowing you to bet these alternate strikeout props to where Carlos Rodon, for example, last week, he was at 6.5, but I bought it up to 7.5 at about minus 175. I forget who he was going against. It might have been the Braves. And I thought the Braves had a good chance against Rodon. Thought Carlos was due for a little bit of regression. And that 7.5 was just way too steep. Like I felt confident in 6.5, but just wanted to pay for a little bit more security unless he had some kind of, outstanding game. And it turns out he got pulled in like the 4th inning and only had 4 strikeouts. So I don't mind laying a little bit more in these props as well if it helps aid in your conviction. With a money line or a total, that certainly presents more volatility, and you got to handicap more than just one guy with the whole bullpen. When you're doing these strikeout props, you're focusing on just the one guy primarily. So that's why I feel a little bit more confident to expand my palette and pay a little bit more for that security from time to time as well.
Danny, before we let you go, we're on the NFC North, which, of course, is squarely in your neck of the woods. Yesterday, I talked up the Bears. I basically told everyone I have them, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this. In my run-through of, hey, who's going to make the playoffs, the Bears were in a 3-way tie with the Rams and the Cowboys for the last 2 wild card spots. And, of course, the Bears were the ones who ended up on the outside looking in based off that. Mm-hmm. So that would probably check out to you. But what are your thoughts on your Bears? And today we have Detroit, who, of course, very different position than usual with this Lions team, where they're looked as a, hey, legitimate Super Bowl contender going into the season here.
I think a realistic expectation for this Bears team is 9 wins, and you're seeing that reflected in the betting market. Now, I know the public's kind of all over them. They're very much adored by the public bettors. The 8.5 is getting heavily juiced to the over, but truly, I think 9 should be the realistic goal here. And that's barring that Caleb Williams doesn't get injured, isn't somewhat of a complete fluke. And the dream scenario is to have happen what the Texans had last year, have that occur with the Bears in terms of how CJ Stroud played. You can get that hopefully with Caleb Williams. I mean, think about the weapons he has around him now. You have a veteran receiver, Keenan Allen, potential Hall of Famer. DJ Moore had his best year last year. You bring in DeAndre Swift. You still have Roshan Johnson and Cole Kmet in the tight end position. You also bring in Gerald Everett to back him up, a veteran presence there as well. The secondary is going to be great. They have a lot of young, great guys. That core has been there for a bit. The problem is, of course, up front defensively. And if they're going to add one more piece, Poles has kind of hinted at it before the season begins. That's really a major red flag in terms of that personnel. The other red flag is just Matt Eberflus, right? How much of an impact is he going to have with his idiotic coaching decisions down late in these games? And then obviously with Waldron too as an offensive coordinator, can he live up to the hype? You would hope so, given the weapons he has. But at the end of the day, based on that schedule, Jeff, yes, I do think the Bears should get to 9 wins. I'm almost a little bit more passionate in looking at the Packers under 9.5 for plus money here. I think the Packers have a very tough schedule, and I'm still holding back. I still have some reservations with Jordan Love and this team as a whole. And I know that I'm kind of on an island there, and I'm not being a hater because I'm a Bears fan. I just don't think the Packers are going to get to 10 wins. I think that may be one of my favorite bets on a win total under is the Packers at plus money. What do you guys think, though?
Well, we'll have Green Bay tomorrow. I can tell you right now, I'm not in your camp on that. With the Packers, the Bears. Look, we said it yesterday. Even though I think the Bears are going to be in competition for a playoff spot, I thought 9 is right. I think the nines that are out there, including behind us, Alex. I think we thought they were right. And we'll have our Lions thoughts in a few moments here, but I have a feeling that at least one of us here is going to be right in line with the market on what the Lions are. Boy, all I'll say is about one last thing on your Bears, Danny, and then we'll let you go. To have receiving core, if everyone stays healthy, boy, talk about a total difference from what it's been over the years for your squad, where at best you have one competent receiver at best. You could legitimately have three guys. Forget Gerald Everett, who you know my thoughts on Gerald Everett, who I think is really not any good at all. Just has a little bit of speed for a tight end. I mean, Allen, Odunze, and Moore. I mean, that's, if everyone stays healthy, that is arguably the best receiving core in the NFL. And there's a legitimate shot at that, which, hey, when you have a rookie quarterback, you want your receiving core to be as good as humanly possible. The Bears at least building it right, even though, hey, you get out 2-4, I don't think Eberflus is the coach in week 7. Really don't. I think it'll be Waldron after the bye if that's the case.
Right. So that's a big question, too. If the Bears start to falter, how hot is his seat on Eberflus? You would think because of the commitment, despite clearing house last season, that they would still give him a longer leash with a rookie quarterback and a lot of turnover. The smart decision, yes, would have been to get rid of him and to just start fresh entirely, but they see something they like in him, and I don't know. You never know what this Bears front office is going to do with coaches because they don't fire them midseason as we know, but that comes more so from the ownership. So we'll see. Obviously, we're excited here. Can't wait for the Bears. I know I ignored your Lions question, so my bad. My synopsis on the Lions really quick before you get me out of here. Their win total about 10.5, juice to the over. The way I would go about it, guys, those first 4 games, you get the Rams, Bucks, Cardinals, Seahawks, then you get an early bye week. They could go 4-0, and that wouldn't surprise me. And if that's the case, the win total is going to be adjusted a little bit higher. Heck, maybe it even goes to 12.5, maybe. And if it does, I would look to go an in-season adjustment on that total, and I would bet the under because Detroit, look, they have practically the same team. They helped themselves out in the draft with their secondary, which should aid them. But afterwards, then they have that first place schedule. The schedule gets a lot tougher. So I think you wait if you're not as bullish on the Lions. See how they pan out those first 4 games heading into the bye week. If the number increases, then look to jump in on the under. That's going to be my philosophy with Detroit this season.
Danny, pleasure as always, man. Check him out, burkspeed.com. Burke Speed is the podcast as well for our guy, Danny Burke. Pleasure, man. We'll see you again next week.
You bet, guys. Alex, Jeff, take care.
Absolutely. Danny Burke, everyone.
Thank you, Danny.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we get back. We'll reset, and then the Lions are up. The defending NFC North champions who were 1 game away from being in the Super Bowl a year ago. We'll break them down next. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, 777s, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. All right. Send the flying football across the screen, Sean. Let's do it. The defending NFC North champions are up now. A phrase that we had never been able to utter until this offseason. Sean, are you all right back there? Oh, boy. See, when we leave Sean and Caden on their own, who knows what will happen right now. They found it.
There we go.
It is. Lions, of course, win their first ever NFC North crown a year ago. Oh, look at that.
Love it.
Oh, you went. That's why you couldn't find it, because you did something new. Well done, Caden. Well done. See, he surprises me most days now. The Lions up now. We talked Bears yesterday. Again, the Lions. We didn't mention a few of these guys in the ads and departures. They really shored up the secondary. They go out. They get Amik Robertson from the Las Vegas Raiders. They go out and they draft Terrion Arnold out of Alabama in the first round. They go out and draft Enos Rakestraw in the second round out of Missouri. So even with the losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson for the Detroit Lions, who, by the way, of course, minus 200 to make the playoffs right now, plus 135 to win the NFC North for the second consecutive year, Alex, they really honed up on that defense, which I know everyone wanted to blame Campbell for what happened in that NFC title game. No, they lost the game because their defense, in part, helped blow a 17-point lead to San Francisco, and they really shored up the defensive side of the ball in this offseason.
And really, that was their only problem, was the defense, right? Detroit, second best in yards per game at 384 in the league. Sixth best in rushing yards per game, 134 per game, and third best in passing yards per game at 260. So offensively, we've seen this team. I mean, they have been very good for the last few years, and it has been their defense that has been struggling. Last year, they did finish 23rd in total yards allowed, so that is not great. But with those moves, I think that this is going to be a big improvement for them. This is one team where you don't have to worry about any coaching changes. So same head coach with Dan Campbell, same OC, Ben Johnson, and DC with Aaron Glenn going into his fourth year here with them. So I like the Lions a lot. Here at South Point, you can still get them to win the division at plus 145, kind of jumping ahead again. But I know this is a really tough division, and they're definitely going to have a tougher schedule than the rest of them. But I think this is still their division to lose. I think plus 145 is a pretty good price there, especially when you look at other divisions. I mean, the Niners minus 225 to win their division. And this is a team that played the Niners in that game.
You know, they're your NFC North odds right now. And we'll get the Packers tomorrow along with Minnesota. It'll be a double dip tomorrow for us on both of these teams. Again, schedule this week, same as last week on Racing's on Friday so we'll only be 30 minutes on Friday. We'll have a full hour, thankfully, tomorrow to go through a lot of things on a Thursday here on Sports by the Book. I think it's just all, and again, we look division to division. Detroit, there's still, I think, a little bit of the market that is not 100%. Hey, was that the peak for this Detroit Lion team getting to the NFC title game? My big question mark, and then you see it on the numbers on the right, is Jared Goff. Is Jared Goff capable of being as good as he was a year ago yet again? Because remember, we saw it in L.A. I mean, remember, the Rams are in the Super Bowl with Jared Goff. They're in the Super Bowl. And then the wheels started to come off after that appearance in the Super Bowl. That, of course, that horrible 13-3 game against New England that the Patriots won in that Super Bowl in the 2018 season. That's really the whole question mark for me. I don't know what I'm getting from Goff. Am I getting the guy last year who was a legitimate top 8 quarterback in the NFL? If I am, you know what? Detroit's probably playing in New Orleans in the Super Bowl. They probably are. They're probably getting out of there because even with a team that, look, we saw last year, I thought they were going to fall a little flat because everyone was a little too high on them.
Yep.
They handled the expectations unbelievably well last year. Remember, 2 years ago, they were the team everybody said, oh, they're going to be the surprise team. They got off to that horrible start and ended up 9-8. They have handled expectation actually pretty well. So this is another year of handling expectation. You're the division favorite coming in again. You have the second shortest odds to come out of the NFC to make the Super Bowl right now. We're talking about the Detroit Lions, guys. Like, look at the history of this team. It's a disaster. We know this. They've never even played in a Super Bowl. But it really all comes down to Jared Goff to me. And you can go ahead and flash the schedule one there, Sean. But it just comes down to Goff. Where if Jared Goff plays at a top 10 level, the Detroit Lions, and look, they have a first-place schedule. So there are going to be some harder things mixed in there. They have to cross with Buffalo instead of a weaker team in the AFC East, even though there's an argument to be made that some may think Buffalo is the third best team in the AFC East. Shockingly, I'm not one of those people that has that argument this year, Alex. You get the cross game, of course, with Dallas in the NFC East. And then the other cross game with the NFC South, Tampa playoff rematch again. I don't think it really matters who you draw in that division. You're supposed to beat them. All things considered, I don't think it's that hard of a schedule. You mentioned it yesterday. This division plays the AFC South. Even though I think some people think the AFC South may be better top to bottom, it's still not a great division. You play the NFC West. You know what? Yeah, it stinks that you have to play San Francisco. And by the way, they're playing them week 17, Monday Night Football, the last Monday nighter of the regular season. I think this is a pretty manageable schedule. I think over 10.5 is fine here. I think as long as Goff doesn't collapse, they're going to win 11 games. I don't know if 11 is going to be good enough to win this division, but 11 is going to be good enough to make the playoffs and go over that win total. I'm buying it. I think their defense is going to be better. I think they will be a really hard out in the regular season. We'll see in the playoffs, but regular season-wise, hard team to prepare for on a week-to-week basis.
To your point about Jared Goff, who has been very good the last few years, a lot of that comes down to coaching and also who they surround him with, right? So this is the best O-line in this division. I don't think anybody can really argue that. So they took very good care of him last year. Fourth best rate in the NFL in surrendered sacks on dropbacks. So I think that will remain the same. They also surrounded him with great position players. I love the Montgomery and Gibbs duo running back that they have there. And then, of course, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was very close to winning Offensive Player of the Year last year. So I think they're going to be great as well. I personally like that plus money, though, just to win the division. I understand if you wanted to just go with their over in the win total.
Yeah, I think it's just hard for me. Again, they're 6-1 to win the NFC. They're 12-1 to win it all. A plus 145 is juicy, but again, we'll talk the Packers tomorrow. I think Green Bay is going to have a lot to say about the result of this division. And look, they play the Packers week 9 in Green Bay, and then they play them. Remember, Bears are Thanksgiving this year, right, Ryan, for the Lions? That's the Thanksgiving game, right? I'm pretty sure that is. That they go Thanksgiving against the Bears and then flip around because the Packers play on Thanksgiving night against an AFC team. I have to double check that. We'll have the Green Bay schedule tomorrow. But that is, look, that's a tough back-to-back. It's a real tough 4 straight games, in all honesty. Play the Bears twice and then played Buffalo mixed in there as well. So funny. When we get to the AFC East, I'm going to be totally different than what I said last year. I think the market's overcorrected the wrong way on Buffalo when we get to that. So I think it's going to be a harder game than the market may say on Detroit this year going into the season. All right. Before we go here today, Alex, I just want to bring up one last Detroit thing, and then we have one more super chat.
Okay.
You asked the question before we went into this, just Offensive Player of the Year. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the one who has the shortest Offensive Player of the Year odds on Detroit. He's 20-1. These are from the Westgate, by the way. Jahmyr Gibbs is also in there at 25-1. So there are two guys that have a reasonable short number here, all things considered. Remember the Offensive Player of the Year award, that's usually the award, yes, the MVP normally goes to a quarterback.
Right.
We very rarely see the MVP quarterback win the Offensive Player of the Year as well, unless if they have a historic season. Like Peyton Manning broke the touchdown record. Peyton Manning won it. Mahomes, when he threw his 50 touchdowns, he won it. Like, in order for a quarterback to win it, you usually have to have something historic happen. McCaffrey won it last year. Tyreek Hill was on pace to win it in order to before he got hurt. But just as a reminder, I would look more to wide receivers than running backs. So if you're looking for some off, I don't want to call it off the wall, but a little bit of a different bet, I would look for Amon-Ra St. Brown here, 20-1 on the Offensive Player of the Year as a reasonable bet. Again, it's all correlated to Goff having a big year again.
Correct. And definitely a top wide receiver in the league right now with St. Brown. And Goff coming off second most passing yards in 2023. Of course, he does have some other good weapons, and Sam Laporta had a great year too, but I could see that going down a little bit, defenses being prepared for that, and then going to St. Brown more. So that 21 is definitely tempting, and I think a good bet if you wanted to make an early one.
Aiden Hutchinson sitting there at 14-1. Again, he's out of that collection of, there's a big collection at the top right now. He's just on the outside of that. Goff's 30-1. I wouldn't bet that. Campbell, I didn't even check Dan Campbell's Coach of the Year because we ran out of space there. But I would not bet Campbell Coach of the Year because he runs into the problem that teams with expectations run into.
Right.
Where when you have expectations, you're supposed to go 12-5.
I agree.
If you're Detroit. If you don't go 12-5, that's a disappointment. Unless if the Lions go like 15-2, which I don't think happens, that's going to be the scenario where Campbell could possibly win it. I don't think it's worth it. Campbell, where is man Campbell? 25-1. Yeah, not good enough price. Not a good enough price for me on Campbell. All right, we have one more super chat before we leave. B. Marte, an active day for B. Marte in the super chat. Alex, I'll direct this one to you because it's interesting here. Is it worth wagering on the Minnesota Lynx? And I'll put a editorial or in there as well. Garrett Crochet in their futures market. That's, of course, WNBA and AL Cy Young markets when they were once 50-1. Also, is that popcorn good at the movie theater inside the South Point? Of course, the movie theater popcorn's great. That's the easiest question I'm going to be able to answer all day. And as I've said on this desk in plenty of times, not only is the movie theater popcorn great here at the South Point, the best monetary value in the entire South Point, and this is a property that has great values across for you, the consumer out there, that big jumbo bucket of popcorn at the bowling alley that's only $3, there's no better value, and forget just the property, maybe even the whole city at this point. So
it is really good.
It's great popcorn both at the movie theater and the bowling alley here. But Alex, I'll ask you, I'm curious just your thoughts on that question from B. Marte on, again, teams or players that were once bigger numbers. Now is the value just too much sucked out on both of them? By the way, we didn't even mention it. The Lynx went to Belmont yesterday and beat the Liberty to win the Commissioner Cup yesterday.
Yes, they did, and they controlled most of that game. And I was definitely on the wrong side there. And the Lynx now jump ahead over Connecticut for the best defense in the WNBA. They look fantastic. I would have to see what the number is now. If you could find a good enough number out there, it might be worth it. It's just really tough. There's so many unknowns with the Aces and what they can still get together. So that West is very tough there. But 50-1, I don't know. It's hard. I'm sure it's down below 20 by now. But I think I would look more to Collier, like we talked about yesterday with her MVP market, because if she keeps this going with Minnesota and keeping them at the top of the West, I think the voters may look to her to give her that award.
Collier 12-1 to win the MVP right now, 6-1 on the Lynx to win the title. That's third shortest. Aces are still your betting favorites, plus 150. The Liberty plus 175. Connecticut 8-1 again. Don't bet Connecticut. They can't beat anyone who's any good. But Minnesota, I think the value is probably too much sucked out. But it is a very different handicap today on June the 26th than it was on May the 26th. So again, probably is too much sucked out.
It's tough, though, because, I mean, the Aces, yes, we got Chelsea Gray back, and they've been doing great, but you can tell that they still just do not have the depth.
You know what? I think the Liberty are winning this thing. I really do. I think that last night we saw, remember last year, the Liberty came here to Vegas and pretty well handled the Aces in the Commissioner Cup final. And at least in my brain, I was like, whoa, all right. They found the game plan to slow down Aja Wilson. And, of course, the Aces beat them in 4 in the WNBA final. If we were to get a Minnesota-New York rematch of the Commissioner Cup in the W Finals, I wouldn't be shocked if the Liberty figured out whatever defensive plan for the Lynx popped up on that. Garrett Crochet, I'll take the Crochet one real quick, Alex. I would just be concerned he gets traded. And, yeah, he could get traded within the American League and you could stay alive. But I would be concerned he gets traded. I would also be concerned, and this is a little bit different when you're dealing with voter-related pots here for betting. Are voters really going to vote for a guy on a team if he stays with the White Sox all year that wins 50 games? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
And that may be unfair to Crochet, who has been tremendous by every stretch. But I don't think you can justify betting Crochet at all, in all honesty, because of the possibility of a trade that would move him out of the American League and then your future's cooked that way. Or the fact that, again, the voters, I just have a hard time seeing the voters voting for a guy as great as Crochet has been this year on a team that could be one of the worst teams we've seen in the last few years. So that would be the thing. By the way, I think Corbin Burns is winning the AL Cy Young. That's where I'm at this point, where Scooble might just get penalized for the same deal. Where if the Tigers if the Tigers end up around 500 and Baltimore wins 95 games, the voters and baseball voters are historically obtuse when it comes to voting correctly, Alex. Wouldn't shock me. I think Burns is going to win it because of that, because the Orioles, fair or not, they've gotten a little better with Cy Young stuff over the year. But, boy, I think Burns is going to end up winning that, especially with the impact he's had on Baltimore, where they were missing a bona fide ace, and he has been a bona fide ace in every single way for that Oriole team so far.
And that's a huge part of it, right? And the impact that they have for their team.
Ryan McCormick, I told you you'd get your time today. Don't worry.
All right.
Punchlines at noon. Alex White will be there. Frank Nicotero will be there. What else you got on a Wednesday? I know it's a fun day of the week for you guys.
Yeah, it is a hump day. So Alex, Frank, possibly myself, will have a hump day homer pick. We've got some good posts with punchlines. We've got some announcements with the NHL announcing who will be in their Hockey Hall of Fame class of 2024. The NBA draft starts tonight. And then some other fun stats for Major League Baseball. And so tune in at noon.
Be a good show as always. High noon here on the West Coast.
Yep. Alex,
as always, on a Wednesday, getting you ready as always for the fun show at the desk. Punchlines. You never know what will happen. Even though Ryan does have a plan, you still never know what will happen. We're back tomorrow, Alex. Green Bay, Minnesota on the previews. Baseball as well on a full Thursday. Good luck on whatever you may be playing tonight.
Thank you. You as well.
Good luck to everyone out there, whatever you might be playing here tonight. It's been Sports by the Book. We'll see you again tomorrow, 9 a.m., South Point Studio.